So I think about stuff like that all the time. Like I think, especially in our industry, in the barber industry, there's a lot of people who think they know it all. They think there's nothing more to learn. And if you believe that, you're right, because you won't learn anything else. You won't learn new techniques that make your life easier. You won't be able to capitalize on new trends. You won't understand how to handle your finances. Like in this business, bro, it's always been a cash business, right? And a lot of people never paid their taxes, and they were never bankable. All right, you guys, today we're going to do a low fade on my buddy Daniel. His last fade was a little bit high here. I could see, because normally when I cut his hair, I have a little bit more to play with here. So we're going to start the process of growing it out. But for now, we're going to execute a nice lower fade to put him a little bit back together here. He likes to get his hair cut pretty often. So I'm going to begin by curving my guideline just slightly above his ear. And I'm going to bring it down to the occipital bone. And when I go to the other side, I'm going to do the exact same thing. If you notice, this trimmer is not going to cut super close, especially moving down with the grain. That's going to leave some hair so that the guideline won't be too harsh. And then I'll follow up underneath, stopping just before I get to that line. This way we can give him that skin look towards the bottom, but we'll keep the fade a lot lower than it was previously. And I'm going to show you guys some ways to really make sure that you keep your fade exactly where you want it. There's a couple of steps that we're going to use here, because sometimes when we start chasing lines, we might wind up going a little higher than we want to in general in the blend. I had my last customer, dude, I did like a business discussion with him.
No way.
He's like an older guy.
Yeah.
And he's really done quite well for himself. So I was just kind of curious, like,
Investments and stuff like that?
Yeah, he does finance, but we were talking about more than that, like, how to appropriately ask for a raise, like what to
oh, no way.
Yeah, like good ways and
like that.
What he said was like, usually you got one of two things happening when you need a raise. Either way, you're being undervalued, but he said essentially you have companies that are just getting started that might not have the ability to give you a raise. They're trying to keep their expenses as low as possible. Sure. So in that scenario, what you do is you go to them and you say, listen, can we talk about, I understand that you're trying to grow this business and I want to be a part of that and I want to help you to do that. But can we talk about a raise? And the way that he phrased that just sounded so good to me, where I was like, that doesn't sound like you're, being over the top or nothing like that. That actually sounds like a great way to approach it. Yeah. And he said on the other side of the spectrum, you have companies that are just making a lot of money that are not paying you, possibly because you haven't asked or whatever, right. But you're not sharing in what you deserve. And he said, you better make sure before you ask that you are being underpaid.
Oh yeah.
And as long as you are,
like on the market,
what am I bringing to the table?
Exactly.
Because I told him, like, one thing that I was trying to do to get a company's attention that I currently work with was I decided that, I need a raise, but instead of asking, like, I almost wanted them to solve my problem for me. Yeah. So I said, I'm going to double down on the work that I'm doing. Yeah. And then they'll see it and then they'll want to reach out and give me a raise. And he said that was kind of a mistake because now they've got that output out of you for that little bit of money. And you don't have another gear to hit, so to speak, once you get the raise. Yeah. And I totally was like, damn, dude, I didn't even think about it like that. I just thought that, I'd work really hard and show them, what was up. Yeah. Huh. All right, you guys, I got 2 Rebels here. When it comes time to do the skin, I almost always use 2 now, 1 in each hand. And that helps me get through this. I know it's a little bit weird working with your left hand at first, but after some practice, you'll find that this is not that difficult. So currently what I just did here is I try to get as close to that line where I left off as possible, and I begin lifting up and flicking away. Now, because this is a low fade and I don't have a lot of room right there, I'm actually going to switch to a different tool, which is an Uno single foil electric shaver, and that's going to make this job a lot easier. It's going to allow me to hit a skin level at the bottom without making mistakes. If I put that big shaver in there, I could create a harsh line that would be difficult to remove. So I'm going to use the right tool, and you guys are going to see me use this tool later in this cut to help refine the line. And I use this all the time for that, not just getting into small spaces, but to use it to actually help my blend. All right, you guys, I'm going to set this in with a taper blade. This is actually a Protege clipper. It has the Mr. Cartoon lid on it, but this is one of the least expensive that Stylecraft sells. And I'm going to tip this out. I'm going to see what it does. I'm going to get an idea. And this is also going to cut, this is going to leave the hair a lot longer for this first pass and help me to get my blend started into the top. So I'm just going to kind of do this little quick process, trying to stay out of the way of the camera. And then I'm going to begin angling the bottom part of the clipper lower so that I actually hit the open taper length the way I want to. Now, Daniel doesn't have a ton of hair, but his hair is pretty coarse. So a lot of stuff can snag in his hair. So this is the time during the haircut that you don't need your most powerful or fastest running clipper. Sometimes when you're blending, you actually want the motor to be a little slower, and that's why the Protege is a great call for this particular time in the haircut. And this is going to set up my perimeter in which I'm going to knock out that line after this step. But the Protege is not set super close to remove this line. So if I try to remove this line, like if I just showed you guys like as an experiment right here, it's all the way closed. There's a good chance that this blade might not be able to get all the way down, which is fine. I'm actually going to switch clippers here in a second, and I'll show you a better clipper that I have set up for this purpose. But you could see just with those couple of steps, there's going to be some residual, and this isn't the right tool for the job. So I'm looking for forgiveness. I'm looking to keep the blend in the exact same spot, and that's why I have this tool out right now. Okay, now I'm going to switch over to something with a fade blade on it. This is a Rogue. This is, again, one of the cheaper ones that you can buy from Gamma. They actually sell a Rogue combo for around like $200, which is an amazing deal. And these now come with newer blades. They're just awesome to blend with. If you've never used an Ergo, X-Ergo, Rogue, Gamma makes an Ergo. I mean, these machines are magnetic motors. They run really slow, and they do just an excellent and easy job blending. Not to mention, like, they're just an ergonomic feel in your hand. So I'm going to begin blending this line out now. I like to start with it fully closed, and I'm going to keep it on a slight angle. And I'm just going to kind of chip into my line. And then as I work in like a section this big, I'm just going to go back and forth a few times using my corner. I'm going to pop this open, literally one click at a time. If you make another line, it's not a big deal because you're gonna pop that open again and you're gonna get it out. I try to avoid putting the clipper down flat horizontally like this. If you see me doing that, usually it's because I'm hanging one side or the other side up. So we'll go up another click here. And I'm just using one corner or the other. Go up another click. So being that I set myself up that guideline between here and here, I've made it so that I can't really bring the fade any higher. Obviously, I know if I'm working above that weight line that I've made a mistake, right? And this is kind of why I like to set myself up just like this. And the other thing you'll notice is I didn't start this blend over by the temple because that's the most visible part of the haircut. I want to actually start this first touch. I usually like to do it behind the ear. So that if I was to make a mistake, it would be behind the ear and it wouldn't be like all in his front of his hair, which would be much worse. But I think it's a good idea if you're a student, if you're new at this, to learn how to play with your lever. Now I can kind of move it up and down a little bit, see what the hair needs, and use the best barber tool I have, which is actually my eyes. I'm going to continue this process around the whole head, doing little spots at a time until I have the whole thing worked out. And then we'll come back and we'll show you how we'll deal with this top weight line, which isn't going to be a whole lot. And then obviously we got to cut the top with some scissors. sometimes when people are growing their hair back in, you can take some off of the top to try to make it look a little more proportionate to the sides, and that's what we're gonna do here. I know you like to usually keep it like longer on top, but we'll find a happy medium. The client earlier had my head kind of spinning with some of the other stuff he said too. I had to go back and listen to the conversation. I recorded the whole thing.
What are you talking about?
The client that I was telling you about, the guy who does the consulting. Yeah. He had me just thinking about all kinds of things, mistakes that I've made and things that I could do. Yeah. And the cool thing was, like, I've been cutting this guy's hair for years, and what I've noticed when you're dealing with people who are really wealthy, most people approach wealthy people with their hands out, like wanting some of their wealth. Yeah. But you know,
is their mindset and their knowledge, right? Because
like it's like catch a fish, give me a fish or teach me how to fish.
Right, exactly.
And I tend to approach these people from that standpoint where, like, look, I'm not trying to take anything that you have. I don't really want to take anything that you have like that. I want to take some of that knowledge. And what I've noticed is a lot of these people who are very wealthy are so used to people coming out with their hands out that when you approach them the right way, like, hey, can you walk me through how you did some of this stuff in your life? And they start to point that stuff out, and you realize, like, dude, you've been kind of making mistakes. And, you could take that, and they're more than willing to share that with you.
Absolutely.
Especially a guy who's getting paid as a consultant, like he can look at your finances, right? And he could see all the places that you're making mistakes in and help aid you. And he said, like, when I first look at your stuff, like, we do a very thorough deep dive. It costs money.
Sure.
And he said, once I've looked at all that stuff, I know a ton of things that I could tell you that'd be very helpful, but I'm not going to tell you any of them until we have an arrangement that we're going to get paid. Yeah. He said, I can't do this for free.
Right.
And me, I tend to talk a lot. I've given away so much information for free. All right, you guys, we got the majority of this line blended out. And while I have him facing this way, I'm going to start working on this upper area. We're going to go back and we're going to refine that blend a little bit, but it looks pretty good. And before I spin him and continue this process on the other side, I'm going to just go ahead and see if I can knock this out. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to skip a few steps. And that's because I manipulated the clipper. So now I have a 1 1/2 on. I'm going to do 2 clicks. So I'm going to close it all the way and go 1, 2. It's just how I always like to approach these things. And I'm only using one corner. My hope with this is this could be the highest that I use, because I want some of this hair to come back, come the next haircut around. So my goal is to not really get into that part of the hair too much. So I'm gonna ease this guard into it, see if I can reduce that weight. And then I'll go back to my number 1. And I think I might be able to work that out without ever touching the half guard. The half guard can really make or break your haircut. And I think it's always wise to try to avoid that as much as you can and pick it up sparingly and use it sparingly. Because if you see this clipper triangle that I have, I'll show you right here, a half guard open is actually going to leave the hair a little bit longer than a number 1 closed. So there's definitely some overlap there, and that's why an open taper is actually going to leave the hair longer than if I put the half guard on and I have it closed. So a lot of you guys think that an open taper and a half guard close is the same step. It's not. All right, so we have just a little bit of residual left. Let's see if I can handle this with the 1. Again, I do the same thing every time. 1, 2 clicks. I call this a 2 click and flick, and then I put 1 tooth down. Doesn't matter if I have a guard in my clipper or not. Whenever I'm trying to blend, I'm usually only using one side of the clipper or the other, and I'm always messing with the angles, manipulating my clipper to try to get the most out of it. When I hold it flat, that's when it's going to cut the closest that this guard is capable of. When I have it tipped, it's going to leave the hair a little bit longer, which could also be why some of you guys are making mistakes throughout the process, because you guys are doing this inadvertently and you don't understand why, when you went through all your steps, they didn't work. The manufacturer set up this entire thing for you to succeed. And as you see in my clipper triangle here, if you hit all these lengths in the right way, you're going to come up with the exact same blends that you see, all your favorite barbers able to execute time and time again. I could hear that little ergo making little small minor adjustments. I really like what I'm seeing there. And I am going to go with the half guard, but it's going to be really minimal. Another way that I could do it is by tipping the clipper out without any guard on it and just using one corner or the other. And this gives me the ability to cut a little bit lower. If I want to, I can angle it back down. You can listen for it to cut. You know you hit the area. Let me switch over to our half guard. Just want to point out, you guys see these blue guards from Gamma. I'm not sure if they're available yet, but they're going to be available soon. But these guards are actually our tight guards. So again, I'll go 1-2 clicks. What that means is they'll cut a little closer than our other previous guard, which was a 0 guard. And this cuts a lot more like a wall half guard. Works really good. And it will work on wall clippers, babeless clippers, obviously Stylecraft and Gamma clippers, and really anything that has those blade dimensions, it will work on. And pretty soon you should be able to buy these in a set. I believe there'll be 4. They go all the way up to a number 2. Just working my way through the steps, moving the lever as I need to. We've actually talked about lines versus dark spots in multiple different videos. So right now, I'm not chasing down lines anymore. I'm chasing down dark spots. I'm trying to make this whole thing look very uniform. Now, if I spin him a little bit, you'll see where there's a line and it's on the other side that I haven't done yet, right? So these are lines, the ones that we see here. And when we're working out these dark spots and we're working out these lines, we do it very, very similarly. But there'll always come a point in time during your haircut where it's time to put the clippers down and try something different. So we got shears, we got other techniques, we got texturizing shears, and we will more than likely wind up finishing the haircut with those. So I'm going to repeat the same process on this side, and then we'll get into the top where we'll conduct our phase 3, which is how to cut the top. This clipper is just like cheating. It really is. Like, I don't know why. I think because a lot of these new things came out, I started using these new things a lot. But when I picked up the Ergo again after just years of not using it, when I picked it up a second time, I was like, holy crap, this is so good. Why would I ever put this down, you know? I got enough lights here, Daniel?
For real.
Do you know that there's barbers that don't cut with any light on their station?
That's not the barber that I want to go to.
No, I don't blame you, bro. I don't blame you. So, Daniel, you work in corporate America. What's the biggest piece of advice you could give somebody who's thinking about going into corporate America?
There are other ways to make a good living.
That's what I'm talking about, man. You guys are so lucky that you do this for a living and you don't have to, you know.
But just imagine all the money that, you know, I'd like to think it's an investment, but loans, going to school, getting a degree, all that's great. But in hindsight, there are plenty of other people who don't have all of that and who are making, you know, are just making a great living, right? So I guess certain things have changed nowadays. You don't need to get a degree. You don't have to have this. You don't have to have that. You know, just as long as you have that dog, that work ethic. Oh.
Well, let me ask you something. So you went to college for how long? Or like what degree did you earn?
So I went to undergrad for microbiology, bachelor in science and microbiology, and afterward I went to grad school for biomedical engineering, which is another 2 years. So
Wait. So you got a PhD?
A master's.
A master's?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Bro, so you like highly educated.
Are you surprised?
Well, dude, I just thought because you're a Dolphins fan that maybe you.
There it is. I was waiting for it. There it is. Okay.
All right. So when you went to get your master's, what do you think? Like, was there anything that you could point to say like I could not have learned this outside of this?
I will say that the work that I'm doing now, and I'm including this in undergrad as well. So in the first 4 years of school, what I'm doing now I took one course combined in both undergrad, which was 4 years, and grad school 2 years. So that's one course. That's probably an hour and a half of school, and all the hours of school that I've had that applies to the work that I'm doing now.
What? Only one class out of all of them?
It's not to say that, I guess, other classes have, have allowed me to improve on the skills I need for the work I do now, but
sure.
I'm just saying, like, a lot of the stuff I'm doing now, I learned on the job,
Right.
So
that's always been my confusion about some places requiring you to get that piece of paper. Because I remember working in a corporate job that will remain nameless. I remember we would hire people that were fresh out of college, and oftentimes one of the people who had been working there forever, who never went to school, would have to train them.
Yeah.
And it was very frustrating for the people that were, on the floor working, and they're thinking like, this kid's making way more money than me.
Yeah.
Why am I training him if he should already know this stuff?
And you know what? Just having a degree, I'm starting to realize more and more, all it is a piece of paper. Because I've worked with employees who have PhDs and are just the worst employees in the world.
Really?
And I've worked with people who don't have a degree at all, and I'm like, damn, he or she knows a lot. I could learn from them.
Sure.
A lot more than someone who has a PhD. It's like, I think, like I said, going back to my original point, having a degree, I don't think says if you're a good employee and a bad employee. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
There's a lot more than that.
I wonder if going forward, if employers are going to place such a premium on that, because I almost feel like there's so many things that you can learn from YouTube and from other areas in your life, workshops, things like that.
Well, I won't lie, half the crap that I learn now, I learned off YouTube. I mean, university of YouTube. When they asked me where I went to, University of YouTube.
Right.
I won't. Again, I took that one course in all my school that has to do with what I do, and the rest of it just through the internet and YouTube. So that's
crazy. And YouTube is always, I learned how to edit. I learned how to film. I learned how to.
It's a tool. It's a great tool.
Just so many great things, and I think it's, it definitely is full of stuff that is distracting as well. But if you're a driven enough person, exactly. I almost feel like you could practically learn anything.
Exactly.
Even if it isn't just from solely YouTube, it could be from other areas of the internet, and you could presumably learn to do just about anything you set your mind to.
Yep.
If you got that dog in you.
Exactly. Unfortunately, I'm starting to see that in the past, companies were more open to having employees who don't have degrees work in a certain job, but nowadays it's kind of like you have to have a degree of some sort.
Sure.
Which is, I don't think it's always the case. I mean, okay, I'm going to ask you, right? I mean, you have kids. I know that I'm old enough to be in college yet, but, soon, right?
Right.
Are you going to push for them to go to college to get that degree, or are you going to be like, hey, if you want to go, you can go, but, hey, son, there are other ways to make a good living, and you don't have to do loans, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I'm of the thought that I will not pay for my kids to go to college.
Yeah.
I know that this is kind of controversial. Probably some people are going to listen to this and be like, oh, what a piece of shit he is for not wanting to pay for his kids. That's not to say that I won't help them out when they need help and things like that during college.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna have my kids go get themselves involved to get some degree that they're not going to do anything with.
Yeah.
I want them to make sure that they have a clear plan in place before they go and have an exit strategy from college to the workplace.
Yeah.
And exactly like what you said, I'm not sure that college is the end all be all answer for everybody.
No.
And I definitely think that there's a lot of ways that you can get this done, irrespective of college. But I'd have to think too that the connections that you make in college, the people that you've met, these people could come in handy later down the road.
And it's not even in college. I think it's just in life. It's all about who you know, because I feel like I can't say I've been too lucky with this, but I've seen this a lot. Like, there are people who get it's really all about who you know, because if you know certain people in certain areas,
they're
able to open doors. And for some people, all you need is just a foot in the door, and boom,
For sure.
So that's another thing, to emphasize on younger people. It's like, it's also about who you know as well, because certain people have certain, weight in their hand and can open doors for you.
They do.
Don't,
I think it's important that you keep that. Yeah, that's what I was just saying. I think it's important that you understand that you can learn from people who are maybe not as skilled as you are at one thing or another. I think it's important that you keep your ears open to new things, because you might have one of those employees that are way below you. They show you how to do something that just makes your life much easier. And, you know, if you weren't looking for it, if you weren't paying attention for it, that could have passed you by and your job could have continued to be, you know, difficult. And you'd be a higher performer if you could pull this off, you know? So I think about stuff like that all the time. Like I think especially in our industry, in the barber industry, there's a lot of people who think they know it all. They think there's nothing more to learn. And if you believe that, you're right, because you won't learn anything else. You won't learn new techniques that make your life easier. You won't be able to capitalize on new trends. You won't understand how to handle your finances. Like in this business, bro, it's always been a cash business, right? And a lot of people never paid their taxes and they were never bankable. And I think there's a lot of good information out there now where, you know, there was a time in my life where I could have afforded a number of things, but no bank was going to give me a loan for these things. Right. So, you know, making yourself bankable and taking that short-term hit for the long-term wealth building strategy, it is definitely a much better strategy in the end. Because now if I want to go to the car dealership, I don't have to fight to get a car loan. Yeah. You know?
But the thing is, I mean, you know what would have been helpful is to have these tools, these concepts, all this knowledge be shown to us at an early age. You know?
We should have been taught this in high school.
Exactly. But, you know, like...
This shouldn't even be like any additional learning. This should have been high school. We should have left high school with a much better set of financial skills. But all we learned to do in high school was become workers. You know, we learned how to count. We learned how to, you know, do these various little tasks. And we also learned how to show up on time and maybe earn our diplomas. Yeah. Yeah. So that made you somewhat reliable in, you know, a sense of the workplace. Yeah. But we really didn't learn. You know what's funny, dude, is like people were always talking about, we used to have that one class, home and careers. It was like home economics, like you know, where you were learning how to cook and you were learning how to do things. And like literally, where are we at now where like you're trying to eat healthy and you don't even know how to cook yourself a healthy meal? You don't know what groceries to buy. You don't know how to handle your finances. Like, what if we had a high school that prioritized these things and made more business owners?
No, it's just like, you know, there should be a class on how to have a budget. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Because, you know, having that information, that knowledge,
that would have been critical.
Life, I'm sure it would help a lot of kids, you know, getting into debt for credit card and whatnot. Yeah. Like, you know.
Dude, I'm sure that there's going to be like an 18 or 19-year-old kid watching this right now. They're watching me do this haircut, and they're spending all their money on weed and drinking and whatever else. They live with their parents. They have no responsibilities, no kids or nothing, and they're not saving any money at all. If I could have that moment back in time, because listen, I was the same way, so I'm not even knocking you for doing these things. I'm just saying that, like, if I could have that moment back in time where I had all that energy, all that extra time, and none of the responsibilities. I mean, when I moved out, I moved out kind of early when I was 17, but even then, I could have saved some money. I could have moved out with 20 or 30 grand in my pocket that would have really helped me get my life like kickstarted, you know, not wasted on a vehicle, not wasted on something else, possibly invested. Just there would have been so many things that I would have done differently, because I spent a lot of my life in a haze of weed smoke, drinking, partying, and not really taking the future, like not even really understanding that I knew the future was going to come, but not really understanding the ramifications of living like that and what that would be. Because you look cool when you're in high school doing this shit, right? People kind of think, oh, that's cool that he likes to party and he's a good time and this and that. But you know what happens to you? When it's all said and done, you become a loser who lives in your mom's basement. And you know what ain't cool when you're 40? Living in your mom's basement and being a loser.
You ain't gonna get no hoes.
Nah. So all the popularity you enjoyed as a high schooler, that's where it ends. And there's a lot more to life after that. Yeah. That's the thing that makes you feel old sometimes, is when you start thinking about the year you graduated high school.
Don't even, yeah. Well, I don't.
What year did you graduate high school?
2010.
Oh, Jesus, dude. By the time you graduated high school, I was already out for 5 years. Yep. You were going into high school a year after I had already been done. So I was already in that haze of weeds. I was already in those haze of weed smoke days. it's so true though. Like, you know, we don't prioritize when we're younger.
No.
And you know, I don't know how it was with your parents growing up and stuff, but like my parents did not show me any of the responsible things in life. You know, my parents both smoke weed still to this day. They've never created a business. I just, you know, and I'm not even blaming them because they didn't have those opportunities maybe to learn that stuff either.
Yeah.
But I didn't have any role models that were great to look at and say like, hey, I want to be like him because he's made life easy on himself.
See, the thing is, it really all depends on your background and how you were brought up, right? Because certain people were brought up different ways, right? So, I mean, like, our parents, are immigrants, right? So they had come over here for a better life. So they had a whole different mindset.
Where'd they come from?
From South America.
Yeah.
Venezuela, you know? So
right.
They're coming, you know, with the idea of like, hey, I have to work here. I have to do my best or else I'm going to set...
You're squandering your opportunity.
And I'm not going to, you know what I mean? Exactly. So...
Yeah.
But that's something they had instilled in us, you know, me and my sister at an early age, bro. You have to work hard. If you want to make something out of yourself, you have to go to school, work hard, study hard, this and that, or else you'll be, you know, doing on the roof, doing roof work, doing landscaping, being paid and custodians, and it's like, you know, no, like, we want a better life for you guys. Right?
It's so smart that I've noticed that with a lot of immigrants and immigrants' children, they come here with the old American mind state.
Exactly.
They come here with this is the land of the opportunity. Yep. Instead of sitting around looking for everything
it was exactly that.
to blame.
And the thing is, you know, and what pisses me off is there's a lot of immigrants who kind of just like come over here who don't work and who just live off the government. Yep. And that pisses me off to no end because it's like, if my parents, if my family came over here and didn't rely on the government for a penny, everything that they got, they earned. You know what I mean? Yep. But that's something that they pass on to me and my sister and whatnot. And I'm so thankful for that. But there are other people who take advantage of government, welfare, this and that. I'm absolutely. Like, so you're telling me I had to work my ass off to help people who aren't working? Yep. Nah.
I remember hearing this one story of a Cuban immigrant that when he would go to school, like his clothes were always all nasty. They never had much food in the house, but they were here. And he said that when he went to school, he learned about, you know, some kids were on welfare. Some kids got, you know, food, free lunch, all that stuff. He said, Dad, why don't we do that? And his dad said, son, that's for poor people. And he said, we're not poor yet. He goes, how much further do we got to go before we're considered poor? Right. He's like, you know, and then I remember Dave Chappelle, he said, being poor is a mentality, son. And that's a mentality from which very few people ever grow out of. And I know he's a comedian, but I think that that's spot on. Absolutely. Like if you go around just believing that you can't be something, then you're right. You probably won't. But if you go around believing that, you know what, maybe I'm not where I want to be today, but if I chip away at who I want to be tomorrow, I could be that person, or I could earn those things. But yeah, I've definitely noticed that the work ethic of a lot of the immigrants who come here can be very high. Yeah. And they can do quite well for themselves because they probably wanted to do this in their country, but the opportunity wasn't there. Exactly. And here they're like, wait, you're saying, you know, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, one of the big statements in that book was, he said, his poor dad said that, you know, get a job, climb the ladder in some company and, you know, retire. And his rich dad said, why would I work on somebody else's ladder? Why wouldn't I build my own? And that was just one of them things that when I finished that book, there was a number of things. And if you guys haven't read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I would really encourage you to read that. It will really... when I was working at that corporate job, it made it almost impossible for me to stay once I finished that book and a few others. They were so impactful that I felt that every day that I did go to work, I was wasting my potential for getting what I really wanted to do in life, and being able to have that kind of life. But that was the thing. Why would I climb someone else's ladder when I could build my own? But there was so much more value just in that entire book. Really, it was just incredible.
I didn't notice that chain looking ugly, bro.
Oh, shut up, bro. I know you. Look, you know what? Yeah, dude, that's a real chain, bro. He said he don't like my chain. Don't make me put it on.
Don't.
All right. It looks good, dude. It looks good on camera.
How did you get that?
I got this at the Buffalo airport, believe it or not.
Yep.
You know, I seen it there. Best $40 I ever spent.
$40 for that? You got robbed.
Well,
robbery.
I'm sure I could have paid more. But, you know, I've been wearing this.
I mean, no, I'm pretty sure I could go to like a Michael's with all the supplies and
make your own.
I can make my own for $15.
Dude, I've tried to draw the Bills logo. It's kind of hard, dude. It's a hard one for me to draw. I've never really succeeded in drawing it that well. I mean, it'll look misshapen. It looks off. Like, I mean, then again, I've seen the logo millions of times. Yeah. So I could tell that you know, it never occurred to me to trace it. See, that's what you learn in that's what you learn getting that master's degree. You can trace it, bro.
That's just
yeah, it never occurred to me to try to trace it. But yeah, I love this chain, dude.
Who do they have this week? Oh, the Giants. The Giants are ass.
Yeah, we should be able to write the.
Is it? Well, I was gonna say, is it New York? But they're both in New York. Is it at Buffalo or?
It's at Buffalo. And in fact, they're not both in New York. The Giants Stadium is in New Jersey.
Okay.
The Bills are the only team in New York. You know, a lot of people don't know that, but the Bills are the only team in New York. Usually, what happens in these situations is a lot of hair gets left over here that doesn't need to be there, so it creates kind of a lot of weight right here, and then this side winds up a little short. So what I'm gonna do to start to get this to look more square, because that's what happens when people bring the haircut a little bit higher, right? They reduce this weight right here, and I like to have this shape be a little bit more square here. So in order to help promote that, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a little bit off of the center, and I'm gonna match that to what he has on the sides. And what that'll do is that'll hopefully start to create that shape for me, and by the next haircut it'll be a done deal. So I'll continue my guideline down the center. This is my Mohawk guideline. And then now I'm going to work with both a stationary and a traveling guideline, picking up a very small section at a time. Might be a good time to switch over to a comb that's a little smaller. It'll give you a little bit more control. I really like these Zuka combs. I got them linked in the description along with the other stuff. But these are just nice combs that really help you control the hair well. And as long as you take small enough sections, you won't have issues with varying degrees of length. So I'm just working this slightly off of my guide, and now my guide's gotten this wide. When I get to this side, I want to follow the shape of the scalp, 90 degrees, and that's where I see a lot of people doing hard parts and stuff like that, that they leave a lot of weight here, and it just doesn't need to be there. The hair will comb over and lay just fine, and you won't have that big buildup of weight right there. So I'll follow this up on this side. This side is not going to require as much cutting because this was the side that was brought up a little higher. So I'm going to try to leave that alone and let that portion grow. There's a little weight there that I think I could probably get out of that with my thinning shears so that it's not impacting my long-term goal here, which is to get this a little longer. We've never done an edge up in the front of your hair before, have we?
No.
Probably not a good idea.
Exactly.
I was just thinking about it, and I'm like, you know, we have never. You do have a decent hairline.
There's a reason for that. The thing is, though, like I guess I prefer just more of a natural look, you know?
Yeah.
Because if it's too edge, I mean, it depends. Because I've had people do it where it's just a straight block. I'm like, all right, no, that's kind of lame.
Yeah, that's how a lot of people. Like a lot of people think everybody wants the same thing, man, and people are different, man. They want stuff. You know, some people don't want it. So here I'm going to use that shear point method a little bit just to break up some of my longer areas, any area of the blend that, you know, I don't think I can get with the clippers. You can break up some of the sections a little higher up in the head. This is just another form of texturizing. And it can be pretty effective. It can really help you to get the blend just the way you want it. I'm really liking what I'm seeing, so you keep it moving. We're just getting about there. You guys should see how many lights I have in this room. to make this stuff possible. But one thing I cannot stand is when a client would leave the shop and I would see him in the sunlight and I would see mistakes that I clearly could have fixed out there, and I didn't fix them because I couldn't see them. I think light is half the battle, both in terms of filming and in terms of just producing a good haircut. If you can't see it, like how you gonna do it? How well do you think I'd do your haircut if I was trying to cut your hair at night with no lights?
I don't want to know.
You want to give that a try? I don't think it could come out very good.
No.
Just a little touch up and detailing work. I consider this phase 6. This is the last phase in the haircut. I'll do the razor work also right around the front edge there, but I'm just looking for anything that I might be able to clean up. This is a good time to put your half guard on. Always start with them 2 clicks. And this is definitely the time in a haircut that you got to be patient. Because like right now, you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's just like that man who's been running the marathon, man. They'll start running a little quicker than they should. And, they could burn themselves out before they get to the finish line. If you make a mistake here, you're going to be reworking yourself. And nobody wants to go through all that. What y'all think about the haircut, man? Is this a nice low fade or what? I feel like the internet is a landmine full of hatred sometimes. Like, this is a lower fade than the one he had previously. And when I say it's a super low fade, somebody's going to be like, oh, that's a high fade, or that's a mid fade, that's a this fade. This is all subjective.
Wait,
really.
So are you saying that if I were to tell a barber number 1 high fade and barber number 2 high fade, that each of them would be interpreted differently?
Yep.
Huh.
It's subjective. I mean, there's no solid concrete answer to it. Everybody's head shaped a little different. People do things a little different. I'll pull the skin this way a little bit. I'll pull down here. Use the heel of the blade. Try to be gentle. Pushing the razor harder on somebody's skin will not make the razor cut better. A lot of times you guys wind up cutting people because you're trying to force a dull blade. If I put this blade on his skin after all the years that I've done this, I could tell if there's excessive drag or not right away. And I would switch the blade out instantly. You can really make a mistake with a dull blade because you try to push into a little bit of a section and all of a sudden it cuts. It should just be effortless. Very little tension. All right, we'll put a little product in here. Tame this top up a little bit. And let's get the final look. Oh, you got a couple hairs in the front that just don't want to go with the flow. It curled and went the...
I always wonder what would happen if I were to grow my hair out. Apparently, when I was young, very, very young, my parents let me grow it out, and they said it would curl.
Oh yeah, dude, it would curl. You would have really curly hair, dude.
Really?
That was weird what just happened there with that one, dude. Like all the rest of them decided to go along with the flow, and this one, as soon as the product hit it, it twisted and went the opposite way. That one's an outlier. He marches to the beat of his own drum. All right, y'all. This is the cut. I hope you like it. I hope you learned something, and I hope you were entertained above all else. And that's how we bring them back to life. So by the next cut around, we'll get some of that weight back in on the sides, but that's it. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. This is the YouTube Barber Academy. We have over 600 videos to help you learn, and we're making more every day. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.